we've got the coat. Nope. This is a V8, and once again, I'm using the wrong intro. This is Chris from Renegade EDC. The intro that I was using was from none other than Brandon, the Everyday Minimalist. I'm going to link his channel in the description box below, so you can go ahead and check him out. He has a lot of knife-related or EDC-related content. Fantastic guy and very well done videos. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing yet another Vero product. Today, we're going to be looking at the Vero Axon, and before I show you the actual knife, I want to preface it a little bit with some unfortunate items that may have happened. So I received my Vero Axon in the mail yesterday. First thing I did was open up the box, revel in its splendor, and unfortunately, after carrying it for the day yesterday, it kind of met an unfortunate would-be end, where it was left in a place that it shouldn't have been and ended up on the ground. We had a rather large snow, and it was unfortunately hit with a snowplow multiple times, scraped up against limestone gravel in my driveway. A lot of different problems going on there. Fortunately, after getting lost in the snow for a short while, I was able to locate it. I have done some modifications, as you will see on the scale, to try to cover up the damage that occurred and make it look like it was intentionally modded. Now, all of you know that it was me being a little bit of an idiot and not me actually wanting this knife to look a little bit different. So, without further ado, let's look at my recently modded Vero Axon. So, here you go. You can take a look at the knife. You can see that we've got some minor abrasions here on the metal. I have dyed the scales a different color, so they're kind of like a gray black, and I have done some sanding to the scales to kind of cover up those areas that were damaged by the abuse that it went through. But now that we have the looks out of the way, and might I add, when this knife came out of the box, absolutely immaculate. Micarta was absolutely gorgeous, natural micarta. Everything was perfect, blade centering perfect. It came out of the box very flickable and fidget friendly. So Joseph's job over there, QCing all these before they came out, he, of course, always does a fantastic job. I am incredibly impressed with him as a maker in general. So let's talk about the function. So, mind you, this knife has been ran over by a tractor, went underneath a metal snowplow, rubbed up against gravel, stuck in the snow for hours of time, and still flicks open like butter. This is an immense testament to Joseph's build quality. He's done a fantastic job with these. Best Tech has done a wonderful job at producing them. Still flicks like a dream. How many knives could you throw in a driveway, have it ran over by a tractor, have it hit by a plow, have it rubbed up against horribly abrasive material such as limestone, left in the snow for hours only to be found and immediately flicked open? It did that the moment that I took it out of the snow. I was so worried about the liners being messed up, the blade being messed up, something being chipped, something being broken. So, mind you, I have done the mods to the scales, but the blade is untouched. So it's gone through all of that abuse and still is functioning absolutely beautifully. Cuts well, functions well, all of the above. So You want a hard use knife? Buy a Vero. There are a few brands out there that I would say that are on par with Joseph. I personally have a little bit better relationship with Joseph. I've talked to him pretty regularly throughout the ownership of his knives, and he's always willing to talk a little bit. If I ask him a question about, what was the design choice behind this, or what was the design choice behind that, he's always welcoming to just say, well, I made these decisions because of this. And that's really rare to find out of a maker these days. He is growing rapidly and still takes the time to reach out to the people that are helping to support him, are helping to sell out his products in minutes. And he truly, you can see the heartwarming feeling that he gets every time one of his products sells out. He doesn't expect it, and he's always just super appreciative of everybody for their welcoming of him into the community and his products. So let's talk about all the things that Joseph has done very, very well with the Axon. So first off is the blade shape of this beauty. So on the Axon, we've got a beautiful sheep's foot style blade. This particular one that I have is in stonewashed, which is very thankful, because even after going through the ringer that it went through, the blade almost looks untouched. That stonewash finish is a great working finish. Fantastic choice, fantastic execution on those. Another addition to this knife, or new addition that I have not noticed in any of his other knives, you can see that we have a show side cut out here, the V slot, as it's aptly named on the Facebook channel. But as we rotate it, we can see that we also have that cut out on the clip side. This is going to be a fantastic addition to this knife that is going to make it even accessible to left-handed users. So a lot of Vero's knives have always had that flipper on the just the clip side of the knife. So if you're a right-handed person, you're wanting to middle finger flick, or flick with any of your other fingers, ring finger included, you always had that really easy opportunity to do that. If you were a left-handed user, on the other hand, you could left hand open with that, but the clip often got in the way. So if you're a left-handed person looking to kind of have a fidgetable knife, you were stuck just using the flipper tab on the back, and then just kind of, it could just be my terrible motor skills with my left hand, but I'm not very good at that thumb flick even now with that. But now if you want to middle finger flick, or ring finger, pinky finger, whatever you want to do with the left hand, you now have that opportunity with this knife. I think that's a fantastic upgrade. The price point of this knife also made it kind of in the realm of higher end knives. This would have rounded out as a pretty budget release. Also with fantastic material. So you have the titanium milled out liners, you have titanium hardware, you have the beautiful big chunks of micarta in this, and then you have the M390 blade steel. M390 is one of my all-time favorite blade steels, up there with also LMAX, CPM 20V. All of these are good hard use blade steels, and because I use most of my knives very, very hard, those are typically the blade steels that I like to go to. S30V, S35 VN, they just don't cut it anymore for me. I'm always rolling the edge, I'm always having to sharpen, I'm always having to strop, and I don't have the time in the day to be messing with all of that useless garbage. So M390, LMAX, VanAx, CPM 20CV, those are where it's at for me. So fantastic choice in the blade steel. The ergonomics of this knife, and again, Mine is modded, so those ergonomics have changed, but in the first 24 hours, I spent a lot of time with this knife in my hand, and I have to say that all of his choices with chamfers around the edge really made some good, appealing lines. The micarta is nice and grippy, has just that little bit of texture left on there, which even when oiled still gives you a nice, good purchase and grip with the hand. He has his same kind of trademark clip that he's had on pretty well all of his knives, and a similar version on his fulcrum pry bars. I'm kind of 50-50 on the clips. The clips work fantastic. Easy to clip to your pocket. They've got a good amount of strength. They're nice and thick so that they don't have that kind of cheap feel to them. But on the same point, just like I had mentioned with the Synapse XL video, I have a number of scratches on my truck because of, again, me being an idiot. But this clip kind of gets in the way from that. I've got really thick jeans that I wear, work denim that I wear. That clip sticks out a good amount. I'm always snagging it on my seat belt. I'm always rubbing it up against my truck and then cringing when I hear that sound of the paint scraping. But it is what it is. The clip functions exactly how it needs to. It's really just me not accommodating the clip in my day-to-day use, which is surprising because 9 times out of 10 I have a Vero knife in my pocket. So let's get into the parts of it that I am not as much of a fan of. So again, take these with a grain of salt because these are very, very minor points to bring up. But the first one, and I actually tried to remedy this just a little bit when I was doing the modding of my scales, is the show side scale really rode high on the cutout here. So if you were wanting to thumb flick it, and it may be just the size of my hands, I had a really hard time getting in there to get a good purchase with my thumb to get that flicked open without adding that little bit of wrist flick in there. Not a big deal for me because I don't really thumb flick a knife all that much. I'm typically going to be using the front flip method or cycling through fingers with the back side, seeing if I can get that 5-finger open, that coveted 5-finger open that everybody wants to get with the Vero knives. So the thumb flick isn't a big deal to me, but I just found it just mildly aggravating that I couldn't get my thumb in there. Like I said, with the modification, I did cut out a little bit. You can kind of see here on the clip side how that scale rides up into that fuller. And then here on the other side where the scale is completely out of the way of that fuller. It's a very minor amount of the scale that I shaved off in that location, but it did make a decent amount of difference for my thumb. And then I did put kind of a chamfer in there. So cut it down and then angled it a little bit so that I could get some movement in there with my thumb. But that made a world of difference for me. I don't condone you doing a bunch of work to your Axon. The only reason that I did it with this one was just because when I pulled it out of the snow, it looked like it had been through a wood chipper. And I didn't want it to look like garbage because I really have an admiration for Joseph and his products. And if I'm going to take a photo of this knife and put it up on my Instagram, I don't want it to look like garbage and give people a bad impression of the knife because of my stupidity with it. I did want to talk about how well it took that abuse and keeps right on ticking, but I don't want to have a photo of the knife out there looking like garbage. It kind of feels like it would dishonor the time and effort that he puts into all of his products. The second item that I'm not a huge fan of, and again, I think that this was probably something, this was a design choice that really probably helped bring this knife down to that more budget classification, which also helped get this knife into more people's hands. So completely understand the design cues in this, but the liner lock So looking down in here, you can see that we've got a nice little liner lock. It is so thin that it tends to irritate, and I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but I've got these little indents in the callus of my thumb. And after a full day of fidgeting with this knife, opening it, closing it, opening it, closing it again and again and again, I've actually noticed where I've been using my thumbnail to close this lock bar instead of the meat of my thumb, because even with the heavy calluses that I have on my thumbs, my fingers were getting just a little bit irritated from closing that. So I kind of wish that it maybe had some subtle jimping, or maybe was just like a tiny bit wider. And we are talking about like fractions of a measurement wider, maybe some texture, maybe a bead blast or something on it to kind of to minimize that sharp feeling that you get out of that bar. But again, very, very minor complaint. And it's only because all of his other knives have had like that really nice bolster lock. The locks have just been, a whole different level, but you're also talking about a different price point and knife. So the context really matters as you're going through the kind of review of this knife. So finishing off, this is going to be probably one of the most pocketed knives that I have. I would say that this one's probably going to spend the most time in my pocket, either as a primary or may even though it's big, end up in my pocket as a secondary knife, probably 60 to 70% of the time. So very, very awesome. Some other information that I would like to put out there. Joseph earlier today had a live stream that he did on his Instagram where he talked about the batch 3 of Axons coming in, going through QC and being shipped out, but he also teased a bunch of really, really fantastic looking items. So if you guys aren't already following him on Instagram, if you're not signed up for the newsletter on his website, and you know that he loves the Facebook group, make sure that you join the Facebook group, that you're signed on to both his and his wife, so Vero Engineering and Mrs. Vero Engineering, and then sign up for the newsletter on his website. He teased brass, not fulcrums. He did tease those as well, but brass scaled Axons and brass Axons with black DLC blades. Do you want to talk about an absolutely gorgeous knife? I'm pretty infatuated with brass. You may notice on this table right here behind me, I've got a brass piano light spewing tungsten light, which does have amber or brass tones in it. I'm sitting here looking at my brass drafting pencil, my brass fountain pens, my brass lighter, my brass lamp on my desk. I have got brass all over my office. Even all of my leather tools that are in the cabinet just a few feet to my left here. Most of the tools that I use for leatherworking are also brass. I love the patina. I love the kind of heritage quality feel, the historic nature of it as it changes. And then all brass is your own. It changes with you. Your brass Axon or whatever brass item that you may have is going to patina differently, look way different than everybody else's that's out there. So he did tease those. You can sign up for all of that information, the Facebook, Instagram, and his website to be one of the first let know. The first to know, if I could speak tonight, that would be fantastic. One of the first to know when those are coming out, how to get them, what's going on. Those are going to be knives that you don't want to miss. And I'm almost reserved in saying that. Like, I would almost consider not telling you just to increase my chances of getting one, but I don't want to be that selfish. I think that these are going to be some really fantastic knives. He's talked about them going out in limited numbers because he really wants the people that get them to be able to show them off and feel that extra sense of pride in them. And I can completely understand that. Really completely understand that. So if you are not already, once again, I'm going to repeat it. Go and follow him on all of those platforms. I'll have them linked in the description box below. I'm also going to have my buddy Brandon's channel linked down below as well, so you can go and check him out. Like I said, fantastic video content over there. He's always talking about different EDC items, flashlights, and all of that. If you use any other social media, he'll have those linked in his profile as well, TikTok, Instagram, all of that. Go and give him a follow. Also, down in the description box below, I will be linking my social media, Instagram, Facebook, and my website. My website is a one-stop shop for not only the Renegade EDC store, where we have custom handkerchiefs, beard balm, leather goods, and a growing number of items. Maybe soon to have a knife coming out. A bunch of different items that pop up on there. It's also a spot where you can access the podcast if you want to listen to some of this kind of content in audio only format and you don't want to look at this mug. But it's a one-stop shop for everything Renegade EDC. So this has been the Vero Axon. If you get a chance to have this knife, if you get a chance to buy one, if you get a chance to hold one, I would highly, highly recommend it. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe. Leave a comment below if you have an Axon, what you think about it, what are your likes, what are your dislikes. Let's start a conversation. And if you don't have an Axon, still comment below. You never know when somebody's going to sell you one. Have a good day, everybody.